Hey there, and welcome to the Airlock Module Podcast. I am your host, Yuki Nishimura. Think of this show as a cozy little airlock, a place where we pause, connect, and step between two worlds, Earth and Mars, science and everyday life, life inside the habitat, and discoveries out on EVA. Each episode, I sit down with an analog astronaut or the amazing mission directors, engineers, scientists, support crews who make these simulations possible. Together, we share the real stories of what it's like to live and work in a Mars habitat and the surprising lessons it teaches us about living better here on Earth. Today, I'm honored to introduce Kristine Jane Atienza, public health nutritionist, innovator, and the first Filipino analog astronaut. She's also the founder of the Space Nutrition Network and is preparing to establish the first space food and nutrition laboratory at the Philippine Space Agency. Kristine, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me to your podcast.
Let's start with your background.
I'm Kristine Atienza. I'm from the Philippines, and my background is very far actually from space. My day job, my 9 to 5, is in public health. I try to solve malnutrition here in the Philippines, but I'm moonlighting or I have sidelines in space. I've been part of the Space Generation Advisory Council, and now I founded a network. It's not an organization, but just a network of nutritionists all over the world who are interested in space nutrition. So we're kind of establishing this very niche field. I also I do, so of course, in love with astronomy. So I also do inclusive astronomy on the side. We have a project now on sonification of astro images with our local sounds or local music.
Wow. Do you have a telescope you use at like a university?
All of my telescopes now are not with me. I have three. So one is in University of the Philippines, Diliman, and the other two are in Baguio. So that's the
Wow.
northern side of the Philippines.
So here in the US, there are websites where you can go and reserve time on the telescope, and it's pretty competitive. Some lists goes out for like a year and a half. Is it the same in the Philippines?
So here in the Philippines, we don't have a lot of telescopes. So we actually use data or we get telescope time from other countries as well. So for this unification project, we were partnering with Las Cumbres Observatory in Spain.
What types of celestial objects do you look at?
So for our project, we're specifically like imaging our local patterns. So we have local names for different patterns, different constellations. So we're getting those images and we are turning those visible light into sound. And we are trying to use as well ethnic music. So we're not just highlighting our local ethnoastronomy terms, we are also highlighting our ethnic musical instrument. Basically, we're like visualizing it when you look at it in the planetarium with the sound, you're transported into time where they do storytelling with the chants and the musical instruments under the sky.
That is interesting.
These are just my passion projects. I have a different job. I have a different like work trying to publish papers on all of those studies. Yeah, even space nutrition and the missions. Those are just my passion projects.
What's your educational background and what shaped your path to nutrition and science?
Yeah, so actually, I've been in love with astronomy since I can remember. Since I was 5, I really wanted to become an astronomer, not an astronaut. So I know what the difference between astronomer and an astronaut was before, and I specifically wanted to become an astronomer. When I was young, I worked for that. Like I studied hard to get into the university physics because we didn't have like an astronomy course here in the Philippines. And eventually I did that. I graduated with honors in high school. Eventually I got into the applied physics program in the University of the Philippines. Then when I was in the university, since I'm coming from the province, so in the countryside, I felt overwhelmed because back in the province, I really didn't feel like how it is to fail. So I've never gotten a failing grade ever. And then when I got into the university where all the smartest kids in the Philippines was there, I really felt below average. And I think it was immature of me. And well, I was 16, 17 that time, and I didn't handle that well enough. Some people would work on themselves, but not for me. I was young, I was immature, I felt kind of depressed at that time. So I
Hmm.
shifted to a course. At first I didn't really like or didn't really am not passionate about, not as much as for astronomy. I just want to graduate out of
Yeah.
the university. But after graduation, an international organization invited me to intern or to volunteer as a nutrition associate. And since I wasn't doing anything at that time, so that's why right now I'm doing both things. I'm doing public health as a vocation and then astronomy and space as my passion project.
So before we get into the science and analog missions, I also wanted to touch on this one thing. So I hear you're a certified mermaid. How did that come to be?
So, aside from dreaming of becoming an astronomer when I was grade 10 years old, it's not the first Little Mermaid, but the second movie. So the second movie made me want to become a mermaid. That's exactly what I did. There's a certification of being a mermaid. It's like free diving or scuba diving. So there's level. Now I'm an advanced mermaid. Yeah, I can swim in the ocean as well with mermaid tails. What you see in the movies with the tails were those mermaids.
What are some of the tests that helps you get into those advanced levels of mermaid?
We have different performances and well, different. It's the same skill, but I guess it's different performances underwater and the time that you're underwater with a tail. It's very hard. Actually, it's hard to look pretty underwater. That's the test as well.
How long can you hold your breath?
Now, for me, I can just hold my breath 1 minute or under 1 minute. So that's going down and up with the tail.
Have you done any performances like at an aquarium
No,
or
no, no. I do it in the ocean.
okay.
I wanted to before, but I don't know why I'm not doing it. There's a documentary actually in Netflix about mermaids.
Do you remember what it was called?
I can't remember actually. Wait, let me see. Mer people. I think it's called Mer people.
I'll check it out. I'm interested now. Let's get into the science side of things. So, what analog mission were you part of?
I've been a crew at the high seas or prior to that, I was a researcher and a nutritionist for different analogs in Europe, such as Asclepios. I started with Asclepios and then Lunaris in Poland and in Iceland.
Were you? Did you say Lunaris?
No, no,
Oh,
I was just getting data remotely from them. That was the first, and that actually made me decided to become a crew member because of those. For me, it's more of I want to know what the crew members or an analog astronaut would feel like when I made them do this. Since I'm a they're a nutritionist. That's why I decided to apply as a crew member for high seas. I had a schedule for Lunaris, but I didn't push through with that because I would need to be out of the office for like 3 weeks, and my boss wouldn't.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah, it's too much
yeah, I think that's a real struggle for us
for
analog
us. Yeah,
astronauts because we have our day job. Some of these are like 14-day
yes,
commitments, 3 weeks commitments, and then you get into the NASA missions where
yeah.
NASA considers the shortest analog mission to be, I believe it's 42 days.
Mm.
Because anything lower than that, you're not really going to feel the impact of isolation. But yeah, I think that's something that I
Talk
don't know
about
how
as
we
a
can
community.
continuing on with that. So what was the application process for high seas, and did the Philippine Space Agency support financially, or how did you make that happen?
First, I applied with Lunaris, but I didn't push through because it will be 2 weeks out of the office. I saw up an application for high seas, and they have an option for just 1 week mission. They had two, but I probably wouldn't be able to go out of office for that long as well. For the application process, it's kind of similar to for both. I sent, of course, my CV, my motivation, why I want to do the analog, and then I pitched a proposal for a study. Linares did an interview for me. online interview before giving me a schedule for the mission. And then for high C's, I think I did college psychology test or cognitive tests before I got the results of my application. It was kind of easy, and then after that we had calls for briefings for pre-mission, yeah, pre-mission orientations for the Philippine Space Agency. Actually, it's very new for them as well. So I kind of introduced the field or the concept of analog space mission to them. I didn't get any support from them, so all of it is personally funded by me. Filipinos are more familiar with it now. I am working with the Philippine Space Agency to have an all Filipino crew by 2027, hopefully. And next year we'll do a simulation of an analog, but here, just locally.
Nice.
When I was in high seas, before I even left the habitat, my goal was to have an all Filipino crew, and now it's happening. So I'm
Nice.
very happy about that.
So from the time that High Seas approved your application to the time that you started the mission, what did that look like?
So most, of course, it's all online. I think I got the results June or July of the same year, and then my mission was November. So I think that was about 4 or 5 months. And yeah, all online. So I trained personally. So I did a lot of physical activity, even though it's not, they didn't tell us to work out anything, but the terrain there is not the usual terrain. I did a lot of workout before going, and it really helped because high seas is 8,000 feet above sea level, and my body, I mean, the Philippines is mostly around sea level. So it was kind of hard for my body.
So how many crew members were in your mission?
We were supposed to be six, but the medical officer backed out, so we're five. I became medical officer, so I was a nutrition specialist, and then half of the time I am also the medical officer. So we're two medical officers. The other one is the engineer.
What was your family's reaction when you told them that you were going to go live in an analog habitat?
Actually, because they're not familiar with analog vision, so they thought that I'm just going to another workshop or another conference because yeah, I do that like every year. So I go to like IAC, different space conferences or workshops. They thought that I'm just gonna go to another workshop. I think when I went out of the habitat and the news kind of broke out, I also didn't expect that reception of the public about the analog space mission. They were just shocked, like they just knew about the whole thing when I was home already.
How many different research and experiments were being conducted at High Sea?
We have each one of us, the crew members, have our own. So I'm doing nutrition, space nutrition, but basically I'm just evaluating our caloric and nutrient intake versus our physical expenditure because we do a lot of work, we do a lot of especially going to UVAs and that terrain, it's very hard on our body. And are we eating enough or are we getting nutrients enough for the whole mission? So that's what one of my study, and then one is doing security all over the habitat because the oxygen tank or whatever, and then one is doing a study on our helmets, like doing uh, uh, she's a mechanical
Anti-fog.
engineer, so
Uh-huh.
not anti-fog, but anti the scratching. So when you're
Oh, yeah.
itchy. Another one is about Martian gravity. We're running on treadmills. We're hand so that we can feel um the Martian gravity sort of, and one is
Th-
on sociology for all of
th-
us.
Did you guys have a harness
Yes.
with the counterweight? At SAM, did they have a sealed habitat with an airlock? And right outside the airlock, it goes into an old greenhouse. And they brought in a Hollywood designer to create a Mars yard. The Hollywood designer were given images from Curiosity and Perseverance, and they were able to kind of recreate some of the rock formations. Going out of the habitat, we were in our EVA suit and they had a treadmill with a gravity rig. They had the weights for lunar gravity as well as Martian gravity, and we were looking at locomotion. we wanted to see what's like the optimal amount of distance we can achieve with the least amount of energy by using different gaits or walking patterns. We were doing like
Oh, that's
skipping,
cool.
hopping. We have a lot of data from the moon, but we don't have anything like that for
For
Mars.
Mars.
So I'm glad to hear that you guys were doing something similar there as well.
Yeah. So although ours, I think we just did like a lot of surveys, even for that. But yeah, I think yours is more comprehensive in a way because we're just tied into one place and we're trying to just like sort of check if it's working, if it feels comfortable enough for us. So that's kind of the basic ones.
What was your habitat like? Well, I'm sure you guys had an airlock, whether it's
Mhm.
simulated or was your habitat pressurized? Was it sealed to the environment? Did you have to like monitor oxygen and CO2 levels or anything like that?
Our habitat is not pressurized, but we have an airlock. It's simulated. We do monitor our carbon dioxide level, oxygen, water, electricity. All of those are in the monitor, and we check that every day. It was led by our engineer, but all of us can see that in our own monitors as well. It's a circular habitat. It's small. It's the size of a tennis court. The interesting thing about high seas is the largest part of high seas is the kitchen because yes, so that's kind of my office because I'm the nutrition officer. So I have the largest office. Yeah. But the reason for that is the first mission of high seas is actually to check the food systems in Mars. So they, as an output, the first mission made a cookbook for Mars, which became my main reference when I was there. Our rooms are on the second floor. That's the mezzanine. We also have a laboratory and an engineering bay. I think it's comfortable, more comfortable than other habitats, even though it's small. Our rooms are small, but I'm small, so that's fine with me. I can fit in the bed while the rest of the crew members can't fit because they're tall. So I think that's uh, an advantage for me.
Was the hardest adjustment for you personally? Did sleep patterns impact you? I mean, you were already in a different time zone.
Mm.
That probably didn't help, but was it sleeping right, eating right, teamwork, isolation?
Well, isolation, not so much because people don't believe me, but I'm an introvert. So isolation is not, it's not a
I could live
problem.
in a habitat forever.
That's true. For me, it's too short. My stay is too short. Like I'm starting to feel the habitat as a home, but then I need to leave. So wouldn't love to be there for a while. But I think the hardest part for me was not having a shower. So we can't have we can't take a shower while we were there. We were just using wet wipes. I think that's the hardest part because I'm used to because the Philippines is very hot, so we need to take a shower like twice, even 3 times a day when it's summer. Um, for food, I I guess it was difficult because we're diverse. We have European and mostly American. Because I'm the nutrition officer, I don't know what to feed them. And I know how to cook, but I know the dishes of Asia or the Philippines, but I'm not sure if they would eat that because we have different diets. We had a good teamwork while we were there. I think the hardest part was the food and not taking a shower. I'm not sure if I can talk about this. Maybe we can cut this out if you want. But the first day when that I was in the habitat, I also got my period, and we didn't have like water, conserved water, so I can't use water. So that was a challenge for me. And I think as analog or the space community should look into these kinds of problems for women, women astronauts or women analog astronauts as well. The rest of the mission was nice for me. So another thing, since I mentioned this a while ago, it was so kind of hard for me to adjust in altitude. I was kind of having an not sickness, but I was having a hard time because of the altitude. So every day my blood pressure would really
Ooh.
spike up. I think I was like 180. I really feel tired, maybe because of also the time zone. I have recovered from jet lag, but I think the altitude affected me a lot. The good thing is we did have a pet. It's a robot pet seal. Really worked because we have pet time for us. We would pet the robot while we're there, so we have time. And then every time I'm petting the seal, my blood pressure would go low.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really is amazing because even though of course the pet is not alive, but it really does help for isolation and for stress
That
level.
that's amazing. The couple of the missions that I've been at, we didn't have, a pet robot or anything, but we had hydroponics and, in a very sterile laboratory looking habitat. It was very nice to go to
Mhm,
that plant module and just be around greenery. It mentally felt like I was more
mhm.
calm. Was that part of anybody's research or was that something that High Seas already had?
Yeah, so it's also part of the research. So aside from
Oh,
our research, we did do a lot of surveys, pre-mission, during mission, and post-mission. So I think 30% was just filling out surveys. So I forgot all the things that we did, but we did cognitive tests, a lot of teamwork studies, yeah, a lot of surveys. So yeah, so as a nutrition specialist in high seas, I'm evaluating our caloric and nutrient intake versus our physical activity because in high seas, the EPAs are really need to go to like lava tubes and wearing our suits. So that's kind of hard. The suits are heavy, the helmets are heavy, and then you need to go down the lava tubes, which is very huge. It's also hard because you can't hear your footsteps. You don't know where you're going. Even that simple things, it will make your tasks hard. Even when you're checking equipment, a 10-minute job would take you about 1 or 2 hours. Basically, I was checking our nutrient and caloric intake, and the initial results from even for other analogs is that we don't eat enough as compared to what we're doing during analog space missions. The nutrients as well, because our food was freeze dried. We don't eat a lot of protein. My study was very straightforward. As a crew nutritionist, I lead the preparation of our food. Don't always cook. There are days when other members would cook our food, but I oversee that. I also oversee our inventory if it's still enough or do we need to like requests from mission control for additional food. High seas, we prepare our own meals. I've done research as well for other analogs, right? In Europe, and they eat pre-packed foods. But I see that, so aside from nutrients, I also have a questionnaire on their psychology. We are cooking our own food because it kind of like breaks your routine when you're in a mission. And it's also very important to be on the table with your team, eat together, because that's also when you feel your um lowering your stress level as well. Usually have like a menu plan for us or for the mission. But for high seas when I was there, I didn't. So I would just ask like a mother, like, what do you want to eat for today? But I think it kind of helped the morale of the crew members, they want pancakes. They're kind of like we're kind of like kids.
every mission, I tell the rest of the crew members that I do not cook. So, I'll eat anything. I'll do the dishes. I'll do all the other chores if you guys can just cook for me. And so that worked out for me. I was like their kid. I guess what's the hardest part to balance in space food? Is it nutrition? Is it energy? Is it taste? All
I
of the
think
above?
it's all of the above. Yeah, everything. Because right now, most missions, I think, would choose freeze dried. So it's really not the same. I mean, you would get nutrients as well with that. If you're not preparing it well enough, or if you're not cooking it well enough, it doesn't feel the same. So you would still crave a lot of things outside of the freeze dried food. Well, energy easier to balance than the texture because energy you can just add like a lot of calories other diet. But for other nutrients, it's kind of hard, especially protein. But for if you would just want to increase calories, that's easier than other things.
Protein is a hot topic in terms of space food because you're not going to have cows or chickens. So, you're the first and only Filipino trained to fly suborbital with NASTAR. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mentioned before that I didn't really wanted to become an astronaut, so kind of weird for me actually. After the high seas mission, I also didn't expect that to be a news for the Philippines, but it did. And after that, like I was doing a lot of talks almost every week, different schools, different venues for a year. And while doing that, people would come up to me. They tell me that they wanted to become an astronaut, or I would ask before I do my presentation. I ask the kids who of them wants to become an astronaut, and a lot of hands, of course, would raise up. I feel like it's the mission. So I started analog missions because I was curious. I did that for space nutrition, so my study, and I was curious how analog astronauts were feeling. So that was main entry point in analog missions. But after high seas, it's kind of cheesy, but I feel like it's also my responsibility for the dreams of Filipinos of going to space to come true in the future or soon. Because of that, I look for opportunities or things, ways, how Filipinos can go to outer space, at least break our highest glass ceiling, like literally. And I found NASTAR. I messaged them. I think that was
Message who?
message Glenn. I messaged Glenn.
The COO.
Yes, the COO of
That's an
NASTAR.
amazing story. And what happened?
I was shocked when he replied. I think less than 24 hours he replied. When I woke up that day, I received the reply. It was very accommodating, actually. So that was January, and I didn't reply back until August because I was debating to myself, why should I do that if it's not my dream? I mean, it's not my goal in life. But then, as I do these talks, people would come up, and I feel like became bigger than me, became bigger than my goals. So August, I decided to reply to him. I would do it. Then he told me that he was born in the Philippines and half Filipino. Yeah. So I think that also I was comfortable talking to him, and it also one of the reasons why I did the mission, because I felt comfortable, feel like, because we have the same origins. I did the certification in March this year.
And then, if that wasn't impressive enough, now you're preparing to establish the first space food and nutrition lab at the Philippine Space Agency. How did that come about?
Well, I hope I get to have a lab, but I was working with Philsa even before. I was working with them about on their space food development. 2021, in my first webinar on space nutrition, I told the students that maybe someday we'll bring adobo in space. And now it might come true. I was working with Philsa even before the analog missions. And then I transitioned work this year. I do a lot of things at work, but I'm not needed in the office every day. So I just joked, actually. I joked, Phil said that, oh, because they're looking for interns and volunteers. So no paid. It's not paid work. But I joked to them that, oh, I can volunteer. I can go to your office, So now I'm reporting to them like twice a week. I think, it's also easier for me because even if I'm not working for sales, I would still do these things, all the things that I'm doing right now. So at least now I'm in the office. It's easier for me to coordinate. And I have two big projects in the agency. One is the Space Food and Nutrition. In November, during the Asia Pacific Regional Space Forum, we will do the first panel, Space Nutrition and Health. And I'm also working on the analog space missions for PhilSat, so all Filipino crew. And next year, we'll do a simulation in a university in preparation for that all Filipino crew mission. I'm really hoping that we can send adobo in space
Oh man,
or
that
Jollibee.
sounds very delicious. I think lumpia will hold pretty well because you can hold it. You
Yes.
can, yeah,
Yeah.
you
Actually, you're giving me the idea. Look.
yeah, you can pack it full of calories and nutrients, and it'll stay in
Uh-huh.
that format.
Let's see. Why not?
You were a guest at an event held by Di Futuro. Can you tell us what that event was about and how was your experience speaking on the stage?
Yeah, that's the biggest stage that I've ever been to. Like I was in a concert. I feel like I'm doing a concert. If you see the stage, it's very huge. But yeah, so a lot of the speaking engagement I get, I would just usually receive an invitation through Messenger or in Instagram. So for Di Futuro, it's an Indonesian event. They message me. I don't know how they found my profile, but somehow they messaged me, and they actually thought that it was a scam because why would Indonesia invite me to their event? Yeah, in the end, it's not a scam. It's a real event. It's a huge national event. So they invited even their president and the high officials. It's an event for the youth, all about technology. They invited me as a keynote, but there are a lot of other talks about AI, energy, everything about technology. They tackled there, and I think it was attended by thousands or more than 1,000, like 2,000 students and young professionals. So that's the biggest stage I've ever been. And of course, I cannot say that I wasn't nervous. I've been doing a lot of talks before that, but when you're on the keynote stage, that was kind of huge. No, you should try.
Big kudos to you. You've been on Vogue magazine twice, right? What? Tell me more about that.
That's also so random. I don't know how I got invited into all of these things. After the news broke out, I've been in a lot of news and mainstream media news, the largest channels here in the Philippines. And somehow the editor of Vogue messaged me. It was also in Instagram, and I checked her profile. It was legit. Yeah, invited me for a photo shoot for issue for Women's Month, March of 2024. And it was a fun experience and an interesting experience, I would say, because I've never ever even thought of feeling like a model. That was my first, like, official photo shoot with photographers, the studios. So it was weird. And I had a stylist. It was weird.
What an amazing opportunity, and all of the opportunities that have opened up since you did your analog mission. So we have a special guest. My wife, Sophia, has joined us for the last few minutes. I was telling her that my first guest is Filipino. I told Soph, my wife, about you, and so she started going through all of your LinkedIn posts and then your Instagram, and she's like, you should ask her this, you should ask her that.
I know. I have my own set of questions, and Yuki was
So I
like,
was
"Stop
like,
stalking my guests."
Yeah. So I was like, why don't you just join the last 15 minutes of it or so? Every other year, as a family, we go visit the Philippines, and my wife has relatives in Las Piñas. And so that's where we stay. And we go to the SM mall nearby. It should only take about 10 minutes to get there, but it always takes like 40 minutes. But anyway.
When you're here in the Philippines, maybe I can invite you to Silsa and then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Silsa.
Thank you for that invite.
Yeah, Yuki jokes that we never take him beyond SM, so we'll have to venture outside of.
Yeah.
Although she did take us to Boracay.
Oh,
That was so
yeah.
nice. And
Well, you
then
can't see anything in Manila, so better go out.
Yes.
yeah.
Manila.
And what was the place up in the mountains? We drove
Baguio.
kind of.
We went to Baguio.
That's
Beautiful.
where Glenn was born.
Oh, okay. Wow. Do you have any questions, Soph?
Oh yeah, no, I have plenty. I don't want to monopolize your time, but in my few minutes of stalking you this morning before this conversation, I really was interested in like your nutrition background and just kind of how you're thinking about bridging or how you just kind of weave these spaces together of like your training in background nutrition and thinking about like food sovereignty and thinking about maybe even like the politics and monopolization of who gets to grow what. And then thinking about our own like cultural practices and the future of space exploration, habitat living will look like. What does it look like to bring our cultural practices and foods into those spaces? Not just as a way of like nourishment and sustaining our sort of like physical needs, but even our cultural and even spiritual needs.
Yeah, actually, that's a very important question because right now, nutrition, even here on Earth, it's kind of like a sideline or afterthought. Also, in the realm of space nutrition, which is very, very niche and it's not established right now, it's very important because whenever I talk about food or whenever I talk about nutrition, with food is not just for like sustenance of the body, but it's also culture because we are the only organism alive who is doing a lot of effort just to prepare our nutrient or our calorie. Animals wouldn't do that sort of things before eating their nourishment. That's a huge thing for us. And we don't think food like that now because it's accessible for us. It's easily accessible for most of us. In the future, when we have like lunar or Martian settlements, that would be a very big thing. And it's not just a food that you're bringing onto that settlement, but also your culture. So everyone should be represented. I was having a hard time in high seas because most of it are American food. Good thing they have rice. So I could eat rice in
Breakfast,
high
lunch, and
seas.
dinner.
So I made them eat rice as well. But those sort of things that we're not thinking about now, it will be important right now. And in the International Space Station, they only have like 200 menu, and most of that are American or Russian. Some Japanese food because a lot of Japanese astronauts, but you wouldn't see like African food or Southeast Asian food represented in that. But I hope to change that in the coming years. So the Philippine Space Agency is working towards like developing our own space food that could be added hopefully in the International Space Station. And we're also proposing a cosmic Asian cuisine. So basically, we will compile all recipes that could be recipes in Asia that could be translated to space foods. For me, it's big. I hope people would see that as well. Yes, we also have organization called Space Food Heritage. It's also looking at the same thing. So there's that. There's culture. Another thing that I want to pursue moving forward is I'm a humanitarian by profession, and I want to also not just integrate space and nutrition or space and food, but I also want to integrate my field in humanitarian or development sector in the space economy. Because the thing about space, we don't realize that it's very similar. The environments in a disaster prone area and space is kind of similar. So the resources is scarce, high stress environment. So definitely those two can learn from each other, check their best practices. So we can use space technology for humanitarian or development purposes, and we can use best practices that we do right now in humanitarian response, emergency response in space missions, in unmanned space missions, or towards the real space missions. Those are the fields that I kind of want to integrate. And people always ask me how I became interested in space when I am a nutritionist. My field is very different. But for me, if not for nutrition, I wouldn't be buying a seat to become an astronaut. So nutrition was a gateway for me to finally realize that I have this dream, like a grown up dream of becoming an astronaut. It wasn't a childhood dream, but now it became also a dream because of nutrition, not because of physics or astronomy, but actually about because of nutrition.
And I think your points about it being like two ways, right? It's not just what can we bring to whatever the future of space exploration or living is, but that we're able to bring and test and ideate and iterate these environments that might feel like more resource scarce or, given the ways that we're experiencing climate change and climate catastrophes and extreme weather environments and patterns, that we can like learn from what's already been explored in space or what can inform how we might approach what that could look like without having gone there. And I think about how interconnected just food science and space science and ocean science is. And oftentimes that people see those as like very separate studies, but they're very much interconnected. Education is my background, and I'm working on my doctorate with a focus on sustainability education. So I think this moment more than ever, like there's such a need, like the climate piece is probably the biggest concern of our time because everything is related to it, right? Like the choices we
Yes.
make in economics, the choices we make in farming, and so many of these other fields, there's a climate piece to all of those. And so I'm really excited to kind of see how those can be even more explicitly tied to one another for the benefit of us living here on Earth and the future of what it could look like beyond here.
Actually, your study is very important, and you would relate to this because us as development workers, and then hearing people from the space sector saying that yes, this and this and this can help solve different SDGs or whatever. But the thing is, they're not going in the ground level or the field level. Sometimes, actually, we are trying to make the solutions that we're trying to use solve these problems are more complicated than what we need because they're
Mm-hmm.
not our level or the grassroots levels. I have
Yeah, yeah. What does it actually look like in practice? Yeah. Yes, yes. If we had more time, like that's such another topic, right? How do you balance indigenous practices and reverence for
science.
land and air and ocean? Yes, still be able to,
Advanced
learn and
science.
study. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
another
and
topic.
study in a way.
Maybe we'll bring you back, and my wife will just be my co-host, and we'll.
Yeah, let's do that.
I want to respect your time. I know you have places to go. Where can our listeners find more information about you? Do you have a website?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to your, and I'm very honored that I'm your first guest. So you can connect with me through LinkedIn or my social media accounts. I'm in Instagram, X, or previously Twitter. I also have a TikTok account now. You can search my name, Kristine Jane Atienza, or my handle name usually is Philippine Atienza. I also have a website, but it's not updated, but it's also tintedatienza.com.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to follow the Airlock Module podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave a positive review or rating. It really helps the algorithm boost the show so that more people can discover these stories and join our growing analog astronaut community. You can also connect with me on social media, on Instagram, Threads, and on X. If you would like to go one step further in supporting the show, I've set up a Patreon where donations are just $3 a month. Your support helps cover the monthly costs of website hosting, editing software, podcast hosting, and other things that help improve the quality of what you hear. Every contribution goes right back into the podcast. I will also thank every contributor at the end of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being part of this journey. Until next time.